Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to have a look at another collaboration beer. So this one is half Scottish on the home side, half Dutch on the away side, and both of the breweries involved in this one have featured on the channel before, albeit the Scottish brewery quite a little bit more frequently than the Dutch brewery. Now when it comes to the Scottish brewery, these guys are a pretty well established and very well respected name within the Scottish beer scene these days, and if people were to ask me about them, I would say that they're most definitely best known for their different kinds of New England hazy, whatever you want to call them, IPAs, although they have been diversifying a bit more in recent times and doing lots of different styles, all of which seem to have been pretty damn good as well. So this is one of the Scottish brews that you really need to check out should you get the chance. Now when it comes to the Dutch brewery, I haven't reviewed anything from these guys since about 2020, if memory serves me correctly. This brewery, when I first encountered them, were best known for their different kinds of imperial stouts and experimenting very much within that style category, but it seems that over the last few years these guys have been diversifying a lot and they've got a lot of different IPAs and things like this now, which is quite interesting to see. I'll need to see about reviewing some of those for you at some point in the future, but also a very well respected name within the Dutch beer scene and quite recognisable across the European continent as well, I would say. So yeah, the beer that we're going to have a look at today is a style that I know the home brewery can do very, very well. The Dutch brewery have been brewing quite a lot of these in recent times too, but I still need to try them. And it is supposed to be a very nice beer, this one, and I'm quite curious to see what these guys do when they collaborate together. So needless to say, I'm very, very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this one then, for the home side of things, we are going to head back to my motherland of Scotland. We're going to go to the city of Glasgow, Yoker to be precise, and that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from the wonderful Overtone Brewing Company. So this particular beer is called Downtown. It comes in at 8% ABV. They're describing this one simply as a double IPA, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be a New England hazy, imperial double, whatever you want to call it, IPA. But this beer is also brewed in collaboration with Brouwerij De Moersleutel, or De Moersleutel Craft Brewery as they're also calling themselves these days. They're from a little place called Heiloo, just to the south of Alkmaar, over in the Netherlands. So yeah, it should be a really interesting collaboration, this one. Like I say, the only reviews I think I've got from Moersleutel on the channel, I think all of them are imperial stouts of some description. So yeah, this brewery was really well known for those big kind of lactosey imperial stouts back in the day when I first encountered them. But I'll need to have a look at some of their lighter beers too. That would be really interesting. I've not reviewed Dutch beers on the channel in quite a while, come to think of it. But yeah, since the Dutch are involved in this review, a massive shout out to my friends in the Dutch Craft Beer Collective. We've got Thomas, Herben, Remy, and also Douglas as well. Those guys are still putting out some really nice reviews. I was hoping to do some filming with them a couple of years ago, but yeah, COVID kind of got in the way of that, unfortunately. So that is something that I'll need to try and organise in the future. I would love to kind of work with the Dutch guys again going forward, because they're all very, very nice. But yeah, I'll put the links to their channels in the video description for you below, and you can go and check them out if you're particularly interested in Dutch craft beer, because there's some very, very good stuff there these days. But yeah, in any case, let's crack on with this one then and see how we go. An 8% New England Double IPA from Overtone in Glasgow in collaboration with De Moersleutel from just outside of Alkmaar in the Netherlands. So, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about both the breweries involved here before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done, both from Overtone Brewing Company and from Brouwerij De Moersleutel. Hopefully we can add more to both of those lists at some point in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated. And remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Scottish playlist and the Dutch playlist since it's dual nationality, but do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days, even if I do say so myself. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Overtone first, since they are the home brewery in this case. So Overtone Brewing, as I've mentioned already, are based in Glasgow in Scotland, and the company was founded back in 2017 by Bo Wei Wang, who is originally from Beijing in China. So he'd been a home brewer for a number of years prior to founding the brewery, and the name Overtone is taken from his love of techno music, and that also explains why you get these lovely roundel artworks on the Overtone cans. It kind of reminds me of Windows Media Player, the old versions where it used to play those kind of patterns on the screen if you full screened it. But yeah, in the early days, Bo Wei hired Dan Miller, who's from New Hampshire in New England in the northeastern US, to come in as his head brewer, and he had previously worked as a head chef and also as a brewer in England, New York and in Scotland for 6 Degrees North. But also involved at the brewery is Martin Conahan, who had worked in the craft beer scene down in New Zealand for quite a few years. He takes part in the brewing and does a lot of other things around the brewery as well, and these days Charlie Irving is also involved in the brewing, and he comes from a background of home brewing and previously worked for another local brewery in Glasgow as well. But the brewery itself can be found in the New Albion Industrial Estate in Yoker, near Renfrew and Clydebank. That's where my grandparents were from, and they began operations in 2018. But the brewery don't have a fixed range of beer, if you like, although there are a few, such as the Ouija Paleo, that you can find very, very often, and they're always really brewing different beers and developing different recipes. But Overtone were the first brewery in Scotland to really focus on the New England hazy IPA style and really kind of promote it. But over the last few years, they've continued to expand the brewery infrastructure, and they've been developing different styles. Like I said earlier on, they've been diversifying a wee bit and doing some imperial stouts and smoothie sours and a couple of lagers and things like that as well, which is nice to see. And they do also have a tap room in the Dongcheng area of Beijing, which I think is the area of Beijing that Bo Wei is from. So yeah, hopefully I can get up to Beijing and check that out. That would be pretty cool, but I would love to see them open up a tap room somewhere in Glasgow as well. But yeah, as of September 2025, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced over 335 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and like I said to you earlier, the majority of those are New England hazy IPAs, but there are quite a few other things coming out from these guys too. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Overtone Brewing Company for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a wee bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done too. But yeah, let's go on to the brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit more. We'll go down to the second half and I'll tell you a wee bit more about Brouwerij De Moersleutel. A bit of a brain fart there, repeating stuff. But yeah, Brouwerij De Moersleutel, as I mentioned to you earlier on, are based in a little place called Heiloo, which is just to the south of Alkmaar in the Netherlands. So the brewery was founded back in 2016 by the four Zomerdijk brothers. This is Pim, Tom, Rob and Max, and apparently they developed a love of brewing from their parents Jacques and Margriet, who had a brewery called Vredenbier. But they'd started out brewing in their kitchen, and then they moved into the brewery space in 2012. But the brewery is based in the former GGZ kitchens, and this space became vacant, and it's now home to the brewery, a cheese factory, a carpenter's, and also an electrician's as well. But in April of 2017, the two breweries were merged together. Vredenbier and De Moersleutel were merged together to become one company, and they added 2 new 2,000 litre brew kettles that year, and they've also acquired a number of different barrels for their barrel aging program over the years as well, and they've been constantly expanding their fermentation capacity too. Now, the brewery in the early days tended to focus on higher ABV beers, and indeed they still do a lot of this, but this was until 2018, I think, and then over the years from 2019, they've started to add some different IPAs and sour beers and things like that, and they've become really quite well known in this particular style umbrella as well. So yeah, up until about 2018 it was all big imperial stouts, and then from 2019 onwards it was different IPAs and things like that, but there's still a lot of very impressive big beers available from these guys too. But the name De Moersleutel, that translates into English as the wrench, and it's taken from the working background of the brother's dad. These guys are an engineering family, so basically it's kind of like the wrench brewery, if you like, and I think they called themselves for quite a while beer engineers, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, as of September 2025, when we're filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 340 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and there's maybe about 15 or so from the Vredenbeer brand from the parents. So yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Brouwerij De Moersleutel just now, or De Moersleutel Craft Brewery. Are they saying Moersleutel Craft Brewery, as I think they're calling themselves as well. So yeah, if you want to learn more about these guys, again, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with the latest goings on, and you can check out the Untappd page as well to learn a wee bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, that's everything I can really tell you about De Moersleutel for the moment. Let's go on and have a little look at the beer itself, because we're finished our brewery history section. So yeah, again, this is a 440ml can. You can see we've got that lovely round doll artwork from Overtone Brewing there on the side here. Tells you there, downtown, 8% New England Double IPA. This one there, you can see the Moersleutel. Moersleutel beer engineers on the side there. I do quite like that symbol that they've got actually, and it tells you a wee bit about the beer on the back here, which is quite nice. I always like that about Overtone, that they put a wee bit about the beer so you can learn more about different hops and things like that. But yeah, it says on the side here, we collaborated with Moersleutel Brewery from the Netherlands to create this bold, juicy double IPA named after a song from the local band De Stad. This double IPA delivers an intense burst of vibrant New Zealand hops. So the hops in this one are Nelson Sub-Zero Hopkeef, Waiti New Zealand Cascade, and then New Zealand Cascade Sub-Zero Hopkeef. So yeah, Hopkeef of course is like a concentrated hop oil product, always gives you this really lovely smooth oily green component. But we know all of these hops quite well. Nelson Sauvin, 16% alpha acid, it's going to give you that lovely white, green, grapey, gooseberry type character. Waiti is quite an interesting one, very low alpha acid, like 3 or 4%, and it's quite like apricot. I remember it can sometimes give you a bit of peach as well. But then the New Zealand Cascade, a little bit different to the American one I found, a little bit more floral I think. But yeah, it gives you that typical kind of grapefruity note, and for me, quite a little bit of like pear and sultana and stuff. So yeah, this one should be quite interesting. Let's get it out into the glass then and see what it's all about. This one's a fairly recent release, incidentally, as of the time of filming. I think this was released maybe in at the end of July, start of August 2025. But I picked this one up when I was in Scotland a couple of weeks ago. I've been back in Hong Kong maybe about a month now. So yeah, this beer is potentially about 2 months old as of the time of filming. So it should be still in pretty damn good condition. I find the Overtone beers tend to reach their prime between 6 weeks and 2 months old, and I think we've got this one in that window. But yeah, I've poured maybe about 2/3 of the beer out and into the glass. You can see there's a nice 1/4 to 1/3 finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head. That's fading away to be a kind of thinner, more foamy layer at the moment, and you can see there's a little bit of there's a nice little bit of kind of more foamy bubble further up. You've got some bigger bubbles sitting on the surface of the liquid there, and yeah, you've got a nice kind of bright yellow mango juice colour to this one. So yeah, it looks great. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. 1, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. 2, length of your wort boil is going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. But you don't often have to care about that when it comes to the IPA style umbrella, if you like. But yeah, in terms of the level of haze and stuff in this one, it's not the soupiest and gloopiest of 8%ers that I've come across in recent times, but yeah, there's nothing really surprising about the appearance of this beer in that sense when you kind of consider what style it is. But yeah, level of haze in these beers depends on oak content, wheat content, and to a degree what yeast you use. That can vary from beer to beer and brewery to brewery. But yeah, it looks nice. Not too much in the way of visible carbonation, and yeah, the head has just faded away to be a little ring around the edge of the glass and a few wispy bits on top. But yeah, looks great, pretty much as we would expect from a New England Hazy IPA. So I think we can have a little look at this one and see what the aroma's going to have in store for us. I think it's going to be pretty good. So let's do it. Oh, right, okay. I'm going to say straight away, compared to the other two that I reviewed a couple of videos back, this one, it's got a little bit more of a kind of yeastiness to it and a sort of crackery-ish character as well. So yeah, I do like the way it goes together in that sense. A little bit different, a bit of a change of pace, but there's a lot of kind of nice bready character to this one, I have to say. And yeah, comes across as being a little bit more oaty leaning, this one, but quite a little bit of barley malt. So it's the yeast, the oats and the barley malt that are really coming out of this one for me. So as I've explained in a number of New England IPA reviews before, for me there are 6 elements to think about when it comes to the malty yeasty side of things. You've got your farmhousey yeasty type character and your rye leaning grainy side of things. Those 2 elements are a bit more common in New England brewed New England IPAs, but as the styles moved elsewhere and evolved, it's more about wheaty bitiness, oaty creaminess, barley malt bread, and also the sweeter side of things. So yeah, these are all the elements I think you can kind of pick up, and for me this one's a bit more barley malt and oaty leaning, but yeah, the yeast actually I think is playing quite an interesting role here. The thing to remember about the New England IPAs is that they started out as farmhouse IPAs in the New England states in the US. But yeah, I have to say, I do quite like this. So it gives you everything you want. You've got nice big juicy fruitiness, a bright green component, and then you've got your kind of bready and yeasty backbone. So yeah, let's just break this beer down then and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth, if you like. So let's do it. Yeah. So for me, the backbone of this beer is a lovely kind of fresh white bready bread crust. So yeah, lovely fresh white bready bread crust in there. You get a little touch of wood, a little bit of cracker as you very often get. There is a little touch of a wholemeal brown bread in there, but for me, the malt base is overwhelmingly like white bread. It's quite a fluffy white bready character that comes out of this one. So yeah, fluffy white bread. There's a bit more of a dense wheaty white bread to this one as well. And then at the back of the nose, you've got more of a, yeah, at the back of the nose, you've got a little bit more of a, you see, you've got a little bit of that wheaty bitiness in there. But as I say, I don't find the wheat overly prominent in this one, but I've got a feeling just from the way it's coming out, it might get more and more prominent in the flavour as you go through it. But yeah, there's a good little bit of oatiness in this one. As I've often said, oats can be a good indicator of how fresh your New England IPA is. Essentially, the creamier they are, the fresher the beer is, the drier they are, the older it is, I think. That can change a wee bit with oat cream, mind you. But yeah, nice oaty creaminess to the beer. A little bit of dryness from the oats as well, but like I say, this one I'm sure is pretty fresh. I think this is about 2 months old. Packaged. The 12th fit. I actually don't know. Saying the 12th, 5th of the 12th. I don't think it'd be that old, to be honest with you. I really don't think the beer would be that old. But yeah, because I remember them telling me in the shop this one had only come out a couple of weeks ago, and I think it's still on the website at the time of filming too. So yeah, I don't know if the wrong dates on that or something. But yeah, we'll see anyway. Doesn't matter. But yeah. With this one, the oats are in there. There's a little touch of that Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotch, and a wee bit of biscuit. But yeah, the backbone of this beer is mostly kind of bready, I would say. But yeah, I think we've said everything we need about the aroma of the malt base. The yeasty side of the beer in the back of the nose, for me, little touch of brown bready note to it, and it's kind of more crackery and farmhousey. Yeah, more crackery, farmhousey, brown bready, and then yeah, crackery, bready, farmhousey, and a little bit of a bread crusty note to it as well. So yeah, the way that that goes together, I think, is pretty nice. I think we've said everything we need to about the malty and yeasty side of the aroma, to be honest, but this is more of a kind of bready, really. It kind of reminds me of the more old school New England IPAs, when you know, I first encountered the style back in 2015. Not too sweet. So yeah, interesting stuff. But let's go on to the hoppy side of the beer then. So, as I've mentioned in many reviews before, there are three types of hoppings you do when you're brewing an IPA. You've got early addition hopping, which takes place within the first hour or so of the wort boil, and that's responsible for the vast majority of bitterness that gives you a deeper, danker green component. Late addition hopping in the last half hour or so of your wort boil, little bit of bitterness, mainly flavour and aroma, and a very bright green component. Then you've got dry hopping, which takes place after the wort boil is complete, and that is all about flavour and aroma, and it gives you a very bright green component. So West Coast IPAs tend to use all three, which is why they're deeper, danker, more oily and bitter, whereas New England IPAs rely on late addition and dry hopping for the most part, which is why they're softer and more juicy. Whenever you use hop oils in these beers as well, it kind of smoothens out your green component, and you can definitely pick up that that's going on in this one, as well as the fact that it tells you on the can. But the green component of this one is nice and bright, but it's also quite oily and quite smooth at the same time. So there's a little touch of earthiness in there, some nice floral aromaticity, and you've also got a little bit of grassiness in there as well. So yeah, the way that this one goes together, I think, is really nice in that regard. Nice floral aromaticity, bit of grassiness, kind of what you'd expect, to be honest with you. But yeah, let's look at the fruity side of things just to round off the aroma. So for me, I can definitely get a little bit of the sharper peach in the top of the nose from Waiti. There's a wee bit of there's a slight stronger grapefruit in there, which will be the Cascade, of course. But I get the apricot, and I get a little bit of that kind of oily, peary, sultana-y thing that I usually get from Cascade. But yeah, for me, it's Nelson Sauvin. It's that white green grapey, gooseberry type note that's coming out of this one. So yeah, white green grapey character, I have to say, is really, really nice in this one. So yeah, that gets a big thumbs up from me. Aroma wise, this beer is pretty damn nice, but I think we're going to get a lot more out of the flavour. So it's about time that we try this one then and see what it's all about. So yeah, this is Downtown, an 8% New England Hazy Imperial Double, if you want to call it IPA, from Overtone Brewing in Glasgow, brewed in collaboration with Brouwerij De Moersleutel from Heiloo near Alkmaar over in the Netherlands. Let's get stuck into this one. Slàinte, skål, cheers, prost. Ooh. Yeah, I'm going to say that's pretty damn good. It's definitely not, I think the date on the bottom of the can there was wrong, because it said like the 5th of the 12th, 25. Did I see that right? Yeah. 5th of the 12th, 24. Is that best before? Could well be. If it's the 5th of the 12th, it must mean that it's been packaged in June or so, which would make it about 3 months old, but it certainly doesn't taste that. This one tastes very fresh. So something weird going on with the dates in this one, but I tell you something, this beer is only about 2 months old or something like that. It is in its prime. But what I'll say about this one is that I think this is one of the slightly drier overtones that I've had in recent times from the malty side of things, but it's got a lovely juiciness in the beginning, and it's also very, very smooth actually. So yeah, it's not one of the sweeter New Englands that I've had from Overtone in recent times too. And this one, I kind of suspected it would be. Like, I had a Trillium beer a couple of reviews ago, and it was interesting because that really took me back to what the New England style was back in 2015, 2016 when I was first encountering them. This beer kind of does the same, in honesty. This one to me feels a little bit nostalgic and a little bit more of an old school New England IPA. So it makes me wonder if this is the direction that things are kind of going in with the New England IPAs just now. Are we moving in a little bit more of a kind of drier, more bready direction, if you like? So we just need to see. But yeah, another very, very nice beer from both of these breweries. In fact, I need to try some of De Moersleutel's own IPAs, because there's a few interesting ones there, as well as a few big interesting like quadruples and stuff like that I would be very, very curious about. But yeah, the way that everything goes together in this one I think is really, really nice. So let's just break it down and describe it for you a bit more in depth. We'll go to the middle third of your palate. The backbone of the beer is that lovely kind of fresh white bready bread crust in there, which you very often get. As you move further forward on that middle third of your palate, there's a little touch of woodiness in there, and then of course you've got that smattering of Jacob's cream cracker, which you very often get. And then on top of that, Jacob's cream cracker sort of thing, there's a wholemeal brown bready type character to the beer, but that's quite a small and kind of thin layer, if you like. Then above that, you've got the more wholemeal, sorry, not the more wholemeal, you've got the more kind of fresh, fluffy, white bready character coming out of the beer, which I think is really, really nice. So yeah, the way that the beer goes together on that malty side of things is quite nice. It's quite smooth and silky in the beginning, then it just dries out and gives you more of the bready character later on. But yeah, above that fluffy white bready layer from the barley malt, you've got the more dense, wheaty white bread in there. As I've often said, sweeter flavours come out further forward on the palate, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back. So yeah, further back on that middle third of your palate, you've got more of a wheaty bitiness. Then further forward, you've got a little bit more of the kind of smoother side of the wheat. Then the next layer up, if you go down the middle line of your palate, you get the oaty creaminess there, and you can feel as you spread out toward the edges of the tongue, it's a little bit more of an oaty dryness that's in there. And there's really not a lot of sweetness to this beer at all, just perhaps a tiny little circle in the dead centre of your palate there, where you get, you know, a kind of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy type note out of the beer. So yeah, the way that goes together, I think, is the way that goes together in this one, I think, is really quite nice too. So yeah, there's a wee tiny touch of that there, just surrounded by a bit of biscuit. But yeah, this is a more kind of grainy, yeah, it's a more kind of bready and smooth malt base that's coming out of this one. It's really not that sweet at all. But yeah, it's good stuff for sure. Very smooth, silky malt base. But yeah, I think we've said everything we need about that middle third of your palate. Let's go to the back third of your palate. And as I've often said, the back third of your palate is going to give you very similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, but just at different intensities. So yeah, the border region between middle and back third in this, where you get that nice little bit of bready build up in there, a wee touch of brown bread in the base, barley malt white bread in the middle, then a more dense wheaty white bready character on top of that. So yeah, that's quite interesting. But yeah, the base of that back third of your palate, you can feel the bread crusty character is just that little bit kind of drier and more grainy. The crackery character sits a little bit above that as well. Wholemeal brown bread, the next layer up is the next layer up in this one is a little bit lighter, taller and more airy than the white bready character above that. You can say the same about, a little bit drier of course as well. The wheaty bitiness kind of creeps over the top there, maybe a little bit of the oaty side of the beer there too. But then above everything else on that back third of your palate, you've got the yeasty side of things. So let's have a little look at that yeasty part of the beer. So the yeasty side of the beer for me, it's quite, it's quite sort of, how would you say, it's got a little bit of a kind of brown bready character at its core. Yeah, a little bit of a brown bready character at its core, then it's surrounded by a more kind of like rusticy, grainy white bread, and then like a bit of cracker and bread crust. So yeah, the yeasty character in this one is quite interesting. That gives you a wee bit of graininess just into the aftertaste with the beer. But yeah, the rest of the malt base is quite smooth and kind of quite white bready in a way. So yeah, I do like how how that goes together in this one. Yeah, it's good stuff. So I think that's everything we need to say about the malty and yeasty side of the beer. Definitely, yeah, the back third of your palate, the flavour is taller. Then as you move into the middle third of your palate, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together a little bit more. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, let's do the green component first. In the back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness in there. Then as you move further forward, it's a little bit, yeah, it's a little bit kind of herbal and slightly woody. Then as you, pardon me, push further forward, you get a little bit of more kind of floral aromaticity, then some nice grassiness round the front curve of the tongue there. So yeah, the way that that goes together in this one, I think is pretty nice. Very, very smooth, as I say though, because you've got all the hop keef and things like that in here. So yeah, very smooth green component to this beer, that's for sure. But yeah, let's look at the front third of your palate then and the fruity side of things, just to round off our flavour description of this beer. So yeah, border region between front third and middle third of your palate. You get that nice little bit of kind of bready build up in there. You've got a little bit of brown bread in the base, the fluffier white bread in the middle, then the more dense wheaty white bready character on top. The base of that front third of your palate is of course the kind of white bready bread crust. You've got the bit of cracker above that brown bread, white bread, the kind of wheaty character, then the smoother oats. And then you've got that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll their way out of the beer. So let's have a wee look at that fruity side of things to round off then. So yeah, the fruity side of this beer for me, it's, how would we say, it's very, very smooth actually, and it's almost kind of subtle in a way. So yeah, fruity, smooth and subtle. It's got a, I'd say like, yeah, at the back of that, if we go into that oily bubble, at the back of that oily bubble, I think there's a little touch of grapefruit, which is going to be from the Cascade. But then yeah, as you move further forward, it's all about the kind of apricot, and there's maybe a very slightly peary note in there as well. So I think that's the Waiti that's going to give you that. And then yeah, as you move into the front half of that front third of your tongue, it's a little bit more, it's a lot more about the kind of white, green, grapey, gooseberry characteristics of the Nelson Sauvin. But yeah, the fruity side of this one is a lot more prominent in the beginning of the flavour than it is in the aftertaste, I would say. So at the moment I'm still getting a nice little bit of juiciness. The apricot and stuff, the Waiti, the soft tropical side of the Waiti is here now, but then yeah, into the aftertaste you get a bit more of the kind of oily gooseberry sort of nature of the Nelson Sauvin coming out of this one. So yeah, the way that all of that kind of pieces together in this one, I think is really, really nice. So yeah, that gets I mean, yeah, it becomes more oily into the aftertaste of this beer, but overall it's quite a silky smooth sort of thing. I think we said everything we need to about the flavour, in honesty. The only other thing I'd maybe add is there's maybe a very slight touch of lime just kind of at the tip of your tongue mixing in with the grassy esters, but yeah, I think we covered it pretty well with this one. Yeah, I like that actually. It's an interesting beer, this one, quite different to the other overtones that we reviewed in the last couple of videos, and as I say, my first hazy review, if I'm not mistaken, involving De Moersleutel. So yeah, I like that. But let's round off with a wee look at the mouthfeel. As I said, this is a very silky smooth sort of New England Double IPA, this one. I would describe this as being sort of top end to mid bodied, bottom end to full bodied. Carbonation is very, very smooth. Like I say, silky smooth, but a bit juicier in the beginning. Then the beer kind of starts to dry out a little bit. You get a bit more of the wheaty bitiness and the kind of dryness of the barley malt. And then, yeah, other than that, we can say, I think this beer, it does build in bitterness a little bit, but I think 30 to 40 IBUs, I think 40 would be the kind of max for this one. The malt base has a nice little bit of dryness underneath, smoothness in the middle, and a sort of silky character on top. Very little sweetness to it in this one too. Then yeah, you've got a lovely juicy fruity character to this. It's very kind of juicy in the beginning, and then it becomes more and more oily the further into the aftertaste that you go. So yeah, the way that this beer goes together, I think, is really quite nice actually. So yeah, it gets a big thumbs up from me. As I say, just a nice change of pace, in fact. So definitely worth trying should you get the chance. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that. This one was the Downtown, an 8% New England Hazy Imperial Double IPA, New Zealand hops in this one incidentally, from Overtone Brewing Co in Glasgow in collaboration with Brouwerij De Moersleutel from Heiloo near Alkmaar over in the Netherlands. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from both Overtone and De Moersleutel are as well. We will see about returning to both of these breweries at some point in the near future. I do need to do some more Dutch reviews on the channel again because it's been too long. But yeah, do make sure you check out my friends Thomas, Herben, Remy and Douglas in the Dutch Beer Collective. I'll put the link to the channels in the video description for you below. Thank you again for watching. Check out my social media, check out the brewery's social media, try some nice beers from both of these breweries, and I'll see you guys again in another review very, very soon. Ciao just now, Slanje and Prost.